Ladies and gentlemen, this week we have someone who debuted for MLW. We have a wrestler that has gone to Japan and competed against some of the best. We have this week Janai Kai.
Yes.
Hello, hello, hello. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Again, thank you for coming on the show. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Starting off, how long have you been in the business?
Well, I just hit my 6th-year anniversary. So it was around this time I started training in Florida. So 6 years, it went by fast, but damn. It's like we're almost getting to even to 10 years, it feels like. But yeah, 6 years.
Has it gone by fast for you? Has it been a little bit slow? How does it feel overall?
It it feels like it went by fast for sure. It definitely feels like yesterday I was just starting out, and you always are learning no matter how long you've been doing this. But it still feels like, yeah, like I literally just started yesterday. So it went by so fast, but I am always thinking about it too, like how far I've come for the time that I have been wrestling. Because 6 years to me still kind of feels like, yeah, you still are pretty new. And around this time, a lot of people are trying to break out. And that's kind of how I feel right now. Like I'm in that medium phase right now.
So I know a lot of people who are starting to reach year 3 to year 5. They're going through, I mean, like we talked about in the intro, you've already been to Japan, which we're going to talk about how, Glee came to be. That's a huge opportunity. MLW, I mean, that's insane for somebody of your caliber already to say that you're barely breaking out or you're in that medium. It's interesting. It's a little humbling because some people are in the business 10 years and they barely get a dark match on MLW, and you're what, champion?
I am the world featherweight champion.
See, exactly. How were you able to get to Japan?
It definitely started around this time last year, but I didn't get to go until January, and it was TJPW that hit me up first. And then around the same time, Glee, or other known as Great, they pronounce it as Great over there, they hit me up around the same time. And so I let them know that TJPW hit me up first. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do TJPW first. And then we'll talk later if the opportunity is still open. And they said, okay, yeah, that's fine. Let us know. And so I went ahead and did TJPW first. I had 2 matches with them. I was there for about 2 weeks. So it was a cute little 2-week tour with them. It was more so like around February actually that I went over there. And so I started off with them, and then Mania came around. I did the TJPW Mania show. And then after that, that's kind of when I told myself, all right, what's going to happen after this? Am I going to go back to Japan for TJPW? Because they were bringing back some of the foreigners. And I was like, I don't know what their plan is. So I went ahead and spoke to them about their plan and told them what I was thinking. And I told them hey, by the way, Great, they offered me a few dates. Is it cool if I go over there and do that? And they said, yeah, for sure. They completely supported that and said that would be a good opportunity for me. So once I got the okay, I went ahead and reached out to them, and then they gave me all of the dates that they had in mind and all that, which ended up being 2 months.
Diamond Egotist.
Egoist.
Where? How? What? There's so many questions about that from the pictures that I've gotten to see, who you guys have gotten to go up against. I mean, where did that come from?
I was asking myself the same question. Because I think when I first went over there for just that one match and I came back to the US very quick, I guess they liked how all 4 of us ladies were together, the whole look. So I guess they decided to actually make us a unit, a legit unit, because Great has a bunch of units in general, different factions in their promotion, but they never had a all women's faction. Mind you, they're still trying to work on the women's division there. So I can see like why they wanted to start off with that, which is very smart in my eyes, to start off with like just building some sort of faction and start getting more women in there. But yeah, I guess they liked how we all were together. And once I came back, that's when they let me know that we are a unit now. This is our unit name. So we debuted at the Ryogoku Sumo Hall as Diamond Egoist.
How did that feel?
It felt pretty cool because it's not only my dream to be over there, but it's also a bigger dream to even like be part of a faction, because factions over in Japan are a big deal.
Mhm.
Like that's, you're legitimately representing something in Japan at that point, rather than just being an independent wrestler, like a foreigner coming through. Now I kind of feel like I'm part of the Japanese wrestling scene, you know? So it feels very good. It feels like I am kind of like on the right path, because it is my dream to be there and keep going there and really make a name for myself.
It's crazy to hear your like the way that your career is and how calm you are about it. Just like, yeah, I have no idea how this is working either. From Pro Wrestling Revolver being in the Women's Grand Prix, seeing that match against Marina Shafir, it just, if you could step back right now, what is probably the one word that you would say?
Chaos. Chaos. There's just been it's been a roller coaster for sure. A lot of up and downs. Um, a lot of moving around. Like it's just like a lot of stuff happening in personal life, but it's mainly been like wrestling that has been really affecting most of the time, like throughout the year. And even like when the pandemic hit, like it affected everybody. But like I was living in Florida at the time. I also broke my neck at the time. So I was recovering from that during COVID. And I moved back home to Washington, D.C. to basically not only recover, but kind of just get my mind back together and kind of feel a little bit sane at the same time with just everything going on. And so like during that time, I'm so glad that I did that and I listened to myself, and that I don't think I would be where I'm at right now if I, didn't do all of that. But it's just so crazy because again, going back, it just happened so fast, and like having a neck injury even can do so much damage, can end your career and everything. And it's just like, wow, like that actually happened. And look where I'm at right now, just even like a couple years later, because that wasn't too long ago that happened. So it's just chaos to me.
Kind of like a chaotic good or a chaotic neutral, not too bad,
Yeah.
not too good. It's just there.
Yeah.
How did that injury happen?
So that happened when I took a German suplex. And mind you, like this, a lot of people, there's more people than I thought that actually came over to me and told me that they also injured their neck from a German. Even like in the slightest, if you are let go a certain way or anything, if the person's not fully taking care of you or guiding you correctly, you can land right on your neck. That's basically what happened. The person didn't have me completely and let me go, and I landed straight down on my neck.
In your mind, did you think wrestling was over?
That's the thing. Like, I think a lot of wrestlers can relate to this. Like, when they get injured, you're so in denial. But it's not only because they're like so in denial, but they know that they will do anything to get through recovery, do anything to be back in like better shape. So that's why they're kind of like, nah, this isn't going to stop me type mentality. So that's kind of like what I had in mind. I never had in mind that this was completely over, even though the doctors are always going to tell you not to wrestle. That's always what they're going to tell you, no matter what it is. It's just a matter of how the recovery process is going to go. And mind you, it helps when you're younger. The recovery process is a little bit faster rather than when you're older, it might not be. And again, you can be very lucky and not be paralyzed or anything at that point, because you are messing with that area where you could be. And so yeah, I never really felt like it was completely over, even when the doctor said, hey, no more wrestling, whatever, especially after my first follow up when he told me, all right, you can go back to wrestling, just don't do what you did the last time. And said that after he said that, I'm like, all I heard was, all right, you can go back to wrestling. That's all I heard. I didn't care about anything else. I'm like, all right, word. Yeah, I mean, we pick and choose what we do in the ring. It's all good. You know how to protect ourselves. I'll be more mindful of who I'm working from now on and what we do. So it's all good. I learned my lesson.
So it was kind of just like a heavenly voice telling you, "Oh yeah, you're good to go." You didn't listen to very much to anything else that happened. It was just more of like, "Okay, cool, I got the green light. I'm good to go."
Yeah, and that's basically what it was. And it's like, all right, I was still gonna take my time, you know. I wasn't gonna jump right in the ring after he told me that, but I was like, okay, cool. Let me still listen to my body and eat healthier. Start off by like seeing if I can lift stuff again because this became a lot weaker. The upper body became a lot weaker when I was going through recovery. So it's to me, the first thing in my mind was to strengthen my upper body. And that's very important. I think like for any wrestler is to strengthen like just everything, like your upper body and everything. Because even like the bumps you take, if you are weak up there, it's going to affect you a lot more.
How does it feel knowing that you are a world traveling wrestler? We're gonna go back to a little bit more of just the happier side of your career. How does it feel that? And then where is the next country that you want to go?
I never thought I'd be traveling so much too and seeing so many places. And I personally enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't like traveling way too much, but like to me, it's great. I think the only downside is like when you get home and then you got to unpack everything. I think that's like the only thing I dread about it. But overall, I like it. And I like traveling alone too. A lot of people don't like traveling alone or being alone for too long. I personally don't mind it. Um, but I think for other places that I would like to visit, I one spot in mind that literally comes to mind. The first spot is Germany. I've always had my eye set on Germany. I see a lot of my friends going over there, and it seems like it's definitely a hot spot. And I was over in the UK already, but I would like to go back and do more of like a whole European tour, basically. When I went to the UK, it was for a few days, but I liked the atmosphere of it. And I wrestled for Pro Wrestling Eve, which is a great all women's promotion. And I love the atmosphere over there. I would love to go back, to be honest. And they have a lot of hot shows all the time. Like their cards are stacked. So I would like to go back there and like wrestle for them, WXW, like all of the, progress, like just all those hot spots.
Where do you see women's wrestling currently in the space compared to what it used to be not even less than a decade ago?
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching old Shimmer matches yesterday, and I was like, dang, like all of these women are beasts, beasts, and some of them are still going and they still killing it. And I'm always thinking about like where I'm at right now and like 10 years later if younger women are going to be watching my matches and feeling the same way. So that's what always runs through my head. And I think later down the line, 10 years later, a lot of younger women are going to be so lucky because there's going to be so much women's wrestling matches that they can watch and study because it's just blowing up like crazy, a lot more than before. So I think right now, like we're just killing it. And I think there should be more all women's promotions ran by women, mind you. And we're just creating this whole thing, like just creating history in the indies.
If you were at home, you want to do a little bit of tape study, are you going to do Japanese wrestling or American wrestling?
I typically do Japanese for sure. And then when I was watching the Shimmer matches, I was doing a little bit of studying on that too. But I always revert back to the Japanese wrestling.
Do you have somebody in particular or do you just go all over?
when I was starting out, I watched a lot of Stardom. Because that was literally the go-to. I felt like when it came to all women's Japanese wrestling or the the older like all Japan like women's wrestling, where like Sumi Sakai, who was one of my trainers, like I watched a lot of her old matches and like where she was at. So I watch a lot of that as well. But that was typically my go-to was watching just a lot of Stardom matches and then trying to see who kind of had my style and seeing how they kind of did things in the ring and just took little bits and pieces of like inspo from them.
You got to wrestle Kairi Hojo or Kairi
Hmm.
Sane, depending on
Yeah.
which company.
Hmm.
How did that feel?
That was pretty cool. I so when they first announced that she was gonna be wrestling on like the next show, I was like, oh, I wonder what the match is gonna be. I mean, like, if anything, I could be involved in it because like we have the whole like faction going versus like the good girls. So it's like maybe she'll join them and we'll like do a whole tag thing. And little do I know that was the actual match. So that was pretty cool to even see. Plus, I didn't even think that I would be part of her like last voyage tour before she went back to WWE. That was crazy to me to even think about. So it was cool. And I got to, of course, speak to her a little bit about where I trained and everything. We kind of knew the same people because she's been over here for a while. But yeah, it was really cool.
What is probably a moment that has stuck out to you the most in your career, though? In the most
Mm.
positive way, something that you sit back and you were like, man, I really freaked out, but in a good way.
Um, hmm. I don't know. This year really hit me. I think last year I was feeling kind of like there was some sort of buzz happening, but this year definitely hit me. I had more opportunities than normal. Like I think where it started off with because since I've been wanting to wrestle in Japan was when I wrestled Jungle Kiona last year for Garden State Pro Wrestling. And that's when I kind of told myself, all right, this is a singles match with a Joshi. Like this is my time to really shine and prove like that I'm ready for this. Prove it to myself, not to just anybody, but prove it to myself. And like like the universe is making this happen for a reason. Like, all right, Janai, this is happening now because you are technically ready. So show that you're ready to yourself. So I think like right there, it was kind of like, all right, wow, like so not only like this promotion trusts in this match, like the promoter trusts in me to really show out and make this match really, really nice on the card. And that's what it was. I really enjoyed the match. So I think right then and there I was like, all right, this is gonna pop off. This is gonna start things up.
So for anybody who wants to head over to Janai's YouTube channel, you can watch previous Q&As that she had. And I
Mm-hmm.
noticed, and I'm trying not to make it as much as I saw the last Q&A that you did, where a lot of people asked about Japan, but they also asked questions that we typically don't, like, who's your wrestling inspiration?
Mm,
Everybody's going to ask that. What I
yeah.
want to ask is, you have downtime in Japan. What was your go-to? What was the one thing that you did the most? Were you a sightseer? Did you try food? What did you do?
I did a lot of shopping. That was my thing because I've also been into like just Japanese culture in general. And when I was in high school, the biggest thing to me was the fashion. And I even went to fashion school too. And that's just like usually when we did any projects, it was all Japanese fashion to me. And I knew a lot of the brands that are over there and everything. So I knew right off the bat, if I have free time, I'm gonna go check out those brands and everything. So that's what I did. Every day was an adventure for sure. I wanted to hit up just the hot spots and then just some of them that weren't too hot, but it was still cool to pretty much see. But a lot of it was shopping. Like I went to one shopping district that was just thrift stores because I'm a big thrifter as well. So they have this specific area, just all thrift stores, and I spent all day there. So it's just like days like that where I just go and I just go shopping. It was very dangerous, but like very inexpensive. Like it wasn't too expensive. I didn't feel like it was I was spending way too much money, even though I probably did. But everything was like still cool. Like it was a cool price. And then I was keeping in mind that I didn't want to overpack. So that was like another thing. It was so hard not to purchase a lot of things.
That so how what was the weirdest thing? I want to ask. What is the weirdest thing you ate in Japan?
Um, I think for any of the trips that I've been over in Japan, I think the weirdest thing was the horse meat that I ate, the raw horse meat. Yeah.
The what?
The raw horse meat.
Okay, all right. Okay, that was a good episode, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not gonna ask anymore. I think we're good with Japan now.
That was
Raw.
like my first trip. So when I went there for TJPW, I went and I met up with Aki and May Saruga, and they took me to this one spot. It was like one of the cute little bar spots, like hole in the wall type, you know? And they serve raw horse meat, like different meats, but like raw horse meat too. And like they told me like this spot and like what I'm doing and what I'm eating right now, like it's so like hardcore. So I was really going all out that first trip.
Okay. Oh, you were trying to earn your colors, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
man. Oh, that is
Yeah.
horrible. I love it.
It wasn't
So
that bad, I have to say, if you want to know.
what did it taste like?
It didn't really taste like anything.
Okay. Just tastes like beef or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like also too, like the meat over there tastes very fresh, very clean. It's very different. Like the texture is very different over there than here.
Did you get to no, you know what, Donovan? We're done with Japan. We are done with Japan. She answers enough Japan questions. One thing that I did notice that you didn't go too much into on your last Q&A
Mm-hmm.
is your interests outside of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
What are your hobbies? What do? You get home and you do what?
Lately, not too much. I mean, I just be going to the gym, and then I study because I study for my personal trading certification. So I do a little bit of that. And then I like to stream on Twitch. Like I just started doing it again. So it's like little things like that. And I like to just work on new ideas and stuff for myself. That's really what it is for me right now. Because I feel like I'm at the phase of my life where I'm trying to figure out personally, okay, where am I going to move to my own new place? It's just things like that that I've been highly focused on. And I try to make time for myself. That's very important to me, but I do have a lot of time for myself because I don't have any other job. I wrestle full time. So I really try and take advantage of that and really appreciate that as much as I can. But yeah, that's basically how it's been.
Okay. See, I have immense respect for a lot of people who wrestle full time. We just had Orion, who you guys can watch on OVW, come on and say that he, that's all he does. So I have a lot of respect for you guys that is what you do. But you don't throw on like a podcast or anything like that while you're just chilling out, relaxing, thinking of new ideas.
I usually,
What's
I
a
usually, well, like once in a while, I'll throw on a podcast episode, or I'll just throw on like my Spotify because I have some pretty chill playlists on there that are very like I find like some certain music very inspiring. I kind of go back to like if I'm like thinking of like wrestling ideas, I kind of go back to some like the music that I really like. Like in high school, I like to listen to Japanese rock music. So I listen to like Japanese rock music when I'm trying to get into like ideas for wrestling and stuff like that. Which like the Japanese rock scene, they kind of influence the way that I act, like my mannerisms, like in wrestling as well, like in the ring and how I walk out, believe it or not. Like the way that I move is kind of like how they move in like their music videos and stuff. So that's like kind of like the inspiration that I get it from. So I try to look for things that will really inspire me. Like if I am going to listen to a podcast, maybe I'll listen to a fun podcast where they just talk about anything. or maybe I'll just listen to like inspirational ones, you know? So it really depends on my mood.
So I guess back onto, because you mentioned the Japanese rock, and you've
Yeah.
mentioned like how much you love Japanese culture. What parts of it though? Because I think it's very common nowadays for everybody to say, I love Japanese culture, but the bar will typically be towards anime. And you don't
Yeah.
seem like that. You seem like it is literally the culture. So, what about the culture do you love so much?
Right, yeah, because I don't even watch anime. A lot of people assume that I do, but I don't. But the first thing that caught my attention was the fashion, and then it was the music. And I was a Japanese rock fanatic during high school, like all 4 years. That's what people knew me as. I was going to all the Japanese rock concerts because the bands would come over to America to like the anime conventions, and I would only go to the anime conventions for the bands. So just to see the bands. And so like I did see a ton of them. And then when I was actually in Japan, I did see one band in particular that was like my most favorite band. So I was very happy that I had that opportunity. So it was mainly those two things, was the fashion and Japanese rock music.
Is your hair also inspired by Japanese culture?
So this hairstyle, it wasn't inspired by it, but I will say in high school I did do my hair the way that those band members did their hair. And
Okay.
it's crazy. You won't even like recognize that it's even me.
But where did the hairstyle come from? I think is the best way to
So
say that.
I always thought about how it would look with the mohawk, and I thought it would be a great time when I think this was like before COVID hit, but it was when my hair started breaking right here because I was wearing a lot of headbands. And if
Mhm.
you wear a lot of headbands, like every day I was wearing a headband, it starts breaking, like thinning out your hair. And that's what was happening. And then I wasn't really taking care of it. Like I wasn't putting like heat protector on it when I would like try and straighten it because it's naturally curly. And so it started breaking. It was terrible. And I knew I had to go to the hairstylist right away. And I went to one who specialized with like naturally curly hair. And at first she had it where it was shorter on the sides, but it still didn't look like a mohawk in particular, but it was getting there. And so she did it like that at first, and I was wearing it natural. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, I have to keep going to her like every week to touch it up. Like, I might as well just shave all the way down to the skin. And so that's when I told her, I'm like, hey, can you just go all the way to the skin? Like, whatever, we'll see how it looks. And then it looked really good. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm just going to keep doing that so I don't have to go to you every 3 days or so to touch it up. So that's like basically how it went down. It wasn't really like an inspiration from anybody. It was just because of the fact that like my hair was breaking and I just had to do something about it.
Okay, because I mean, you could tell in the picture right there, like you have a very unique hairstyle. So I was like, I wonder where this could be. Is this attire right here inspired by Bruce Lee?
Yeah, so the colors definitely, and I actually got that top from somewhere else. It wasn't made, but I did wanted like a short sleeve to match with my yellow. But I did have a top that is inspired by Bruce Lee. Like it has the black stripe and everything. It definitely looks like how his thing was, which oh, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely inspired by Bruce Lee, Game of Death.
How did you go from martial arts to professional wrestling?
So I th- I think how it really happened was I was starting to watch wrestling around the same time I started martial arts. So, and I think I chose martial arts mainly because of the fact that I like the whole one-on-one like type combat fighting type thing where like it's really dependent on you to fight like for yourself in a way. And I'm very competitive towards myself and I always want to do better. than I did like yesterday. So like I think like Taekwondo and martial arts in general is like the perfect sport to get into if you're that type of person that always wants to do better than yesterday. And that's how I kind of went into it. And then as I was growing up, I think around the age of 13, that's when I really knew I wanted to wrestle, but I was still pretty young. Mind you, my mom took me to a wrestling school just to check it out, just to see how I like, watching it from that perspective. And I liked it a lot, but still a little too young. And then when I became of age to really do things on my own, that's when I was like, all right, I want to go do this because it's still on my mind and it's never going to leave. I'm going to regret it if I don't try it. So I went ahead and did it.
I like that. I like that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to hear, most people will have, professional wrestling and then go into another fighting style just to help, but you were the exact opposite. So, did you compete regularly or no? Were you just training in martial arts for training? Like what? Tell me, let's get into that.
Yeah, so I did compete in Taekwondo. I did a lot of tournaments actually. I was doing a good handful of them each year. So it was like whichever one that my school would announce, I would do it. And I was typically like one of the only ones representing my school at these tournaments. So it was like a lot of pressure on me in that way too. And so I still remember I have about 13 trophies and 3 medals from just competitions alone. And it was a good experience for me. It was like another thing where I always wanted to be better than I was beforehand. It was a lot of pressure. I did face a lot of people that were much bigger than me. Mind you, I was like around like 10, 11, 12 doing these. So it was crazy. It was crazy back then. And they didn't like the training, they didn't go light on me. It was pretty hard. Even though I was young, like they didn't really care. Like they really pushed me. And I'm very appreciative of that actually. I'm so glad it was that way. Um, but yeah, I like to try and think back and try to remember how it really was, and I get, like, little glimpse here and there of memories here and there, and I wish that, more cameras and phones were available to take pictures because 'cause I'm aging myself, but we didn't have that really back when I was competing. We had, like, the Kodak cameras, in which, like, my parents would take pictures on those, but we lost a lot of those, so
Yeah.
there were some that my mom was able to capture, but yeah, gosh,
It's
it was a
all
good memory.
it's also a little tough because you wrestle, so you get kicked in the head a lot. So yeah, it's also
That
tough because of
too.
that. Because of
That
that.
that as well. I always tell everybody that. I'm like, "Please bear with me because I get hit in the head a lot."
That's usually the go-to if we plan an episode with somebody and they forget. That's why I'm very patient with people because I'm like, yeah, I feel you. It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, yeah.
So as we begin to wind down, where can everybody see you? What are your upcoming dates? How often are you going to be on MLW? Let everybody know. They want to watch you. I already know it. People are gonna
Yeah.
connect with you.
So, I'm definitely gonna be at the next MLW. I believe it's what, November sorry, on the 18th. I'm still it's the wrestling brain. Um, I'm glad I have the Google Calendar. I put everything on my Google Calendar, but yeah, it's the 18th. Cool, I got it right. Yes. And then I think in 2 weeks I'm gonna make my Utah debut.
Oh, for who?
Yeah, STF Pro Wrestling.
Oh, I don't know them. Okay, so a little background, and I'll take this off the episode. So I am currently training.
Oh, okay.
So one of the guys at my school, he needed people to travel with him from New Mexico to Utah. So
Oh,
me and my co-host, who couldn't be here today, we decided to, oh yeah, you know what? Let's go. Let's have some fun. By far one of the scariest trips ever.
eh,
Uh, Yeah, Mountain tried to kill us. So when you said Utah, I got super excited. I was like, I know
Uh,
some of those guys, but I don't know that.
yeah,
There's
I don't know much about this promotion, but I will be facing Holodead for the second time.
oh, okay.
Holodead is the women's champion there, so I will be facing Holodead round 2
Is
at STF
that
Pro Wrestling.
is that in Salt Lake?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one of their they have like 5 promotions. So it's one of those ones. Okay.
Yeah, and then so I have STF Pro Wrestling in Utah, and I have one they haven't announced me yet, but it is in Jersey. And that's gonna be on the 12th, so you guys can do your research and figure out where that's at. But yeah, that one, MLW, and then I'll be at WrestleCade weekend.
Oh, that's awesome. Wait, are you
Yeah.
doing just an appearance or are you gonna actually have a match?
So I'll have a match, don't know what it is yet, but it'll be at Ladies Night Out. And then I am gonna do like a podcast appearance for Teasy. He usually does music for like some of the AEW stars and everything, and he has his own podcast. So it's gonna be like a live podcast type thing.
I'm also gonna cut this out. Yeah, I call him our podfather. That I mean, that's how we connected, but he's been really helpful trying to help us uh launch this brand. So
Yeah.
yeah, he helps us out a lot.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
excited. I'm very excited. I haven't done like a live podcast type thing before, but he's always cool to talk to. I did like one episode with him before, like a couple years ago. I don't know, last year. I think it was
yeah.
last year. Um, but yeah, he's always cool to talk to. It's gonna be a good time.
Well, I'm excited for you. So what are the socials? How can everybody get a hold of you?
So my socials, I do have Twitter or X at Janai_Kai. Instagram's the same way, Janai_Kai. And then you can catch me on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Janai Kai. And I also have Patreon if you want like exclusive content. I do a lot of blogging, vlogging there. So you can catch me on there at patreon.com/Janai Kai.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us give another round of applause and thank you for coming on to Downtime in the Ring. Loved it. We're gonna definitely have to have you on again so we can get more into just your martial arts background, just more of who you are and how you are doing, because I can tell you are going to be a lot going crazy, a lot bigger, a lot more, having a lot more adventures, doing a lot
Yeah.
more things in who knows, probably 6 months, a year. Who knows? You have like the jetpack strapped onto you and you're just shooting to the moon already. And we can't wait to see what you're doing.
Thank you.
So remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next episode.